So there you go, that is old school mince and onion sheet pie. How many of you remember that then? Hi everyone, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Today, old school. As in old school, at school, and it's an old school recipe. We are making a mince and onion sheet pie. And we used to have it cut into slices, served with chips and beans or chips and gravy. Fantastic, fantastic. And if anybody's got memories out there of this, or if you still make it, leave a comment, tell me about it. I absolutely loved it while I was at school, so we're going to make it. So we are going in there with just a tiny amount of oil, because that's all that's left in this bowl, look. Want a flame on? Now, what we want to do with this, we actually want to give ourselves a flavour boost inside our sheet pie. And the way to do that is to cook the onions slow, but brown them a little bit. So in there with our onions. Now obviously if you want to change the recipe up and put garlic in and all that, feel free. So we just want to put a little bit of colour on there. Now you can cheat, you can put a teaspoon of brown sugar in there as well, and obviously they're going to sweeten a little bit, but they will caramelise. In there with a little bit of salt, not much, just bring out a little bit of that moisture. In fact, now I've said that, we're going to do that just because I've said it, and if I don't do it someone will say, well, you never did it. A little bit, look, not much. We don't want sweet mince pie. Give it a little whiz round. Now we do want a little bit of colour on here, so it's going to be about 5 minutes, somewhere around about there. Because we're actually making this in, in fact it's a small tray actually. It's a 12 by 9. You know, the old school days, they used to make them in a big tray, shove them in the oven, and you used to get a square of pie. Okay, we're still going to cut it into square of pie, but this lends itself, this mix lends itself to hand pies. You know, you can make a hand pie with this mix, not a problem. So just a little bit on there, look. And today I'm going to give away 2 little secrets to making this, which most people won't do or will not know to do. But it's a very old school way of cooking, and we're going to do it for this pie. So, nice little stir on there, take out the rawness of the onion, give them a little bit of colour. You know, you can be as fancy as you like with this cooking malarkey, you know. But some of these old recipes that we grew up with and we know, you know, they're a bit special really. They work every time. They're superb. Once you've got a little bit of colour on there, in with your mince. Get your mince in, start breaking it up, start cooking it, and we need to season this with salt and pepper. A little bit of pepper in there with a little bit of salt. That's the seasoning of our mince. Get it all mixed in with your onions. Start browning it off. So if you can, put a little bit of browning on your mince. You know, we actually want flavour in here, and it's the only way we're going to get flavour in. Brown it off, char it a little bit, anything like that. By the time this fat and fluid cooks out of here, it'll be lovely. Whilst that's cooking away, we're going in there with a pinch of mixed herbs. British mixed herbs. There's a link on the channel if you want to make it. If not, go buy them. Or just use dry thyme. In fact, just use herbs of choice. It's up to you. In there with a pinch of that. Give that a little stir through. That's going to bloom up and rehydrate in there with that fluid, that oil, that meat fat. Oh, delicious. Proper cooking. A splash of Worcester sauce. Now you can use Henderson's or anything like that if you prefer. And we're going to go in with a tablespoon of tomato puree. Now the tomato puree, Worcester sauce, depending on the chef back then, you know, let's face it, how many times have you had mince and onion pie and it was bland really? Stir that in. That's what we're talking. Just give it a minute. Just let all those flavours get together in there. It smells amazing already actually. Right, beef broth or beef stock today. I'm using powder, beef powder. If you're using OXO cubes or beef cubes, you will have to make a cornstarch slurry. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of water as a thickener for your beef broth. It's only about 250 mils for this, but you're going to have to thicken it. I don't have to thicken it with this, it's going to thicken. The powdered gravy granules actually contain cornflour cornstarch, so they thicken anyway. Okay, we got that going on. We're going in there with that beef broth. Give it a stir through, bring it all in, let it all play together. Now here comes one of the tips that people don't know. In there, breadcrumbs. Fresh breadcrumbs work really well, but so do dried, because we're going to cook this for about 10 minutes. So you just stir that in. That's going to soak up the flavour in there. And what happens is it actually softens the meat sauce inside your pie, so you get a better mouthfeel. It's not just dry meat. There you go, there's an old school tip right there. So we're looking at simmering this for about 10 minutes. Just keep coming along, give it a stir, make sure nothing is stuck on the bottom. That's it. That is a beautiful meat filling right there. Look at that. If that holds like that, that's going to be delicious in our pie. Okay, when you've had 10 minutes, turn off your mince, and we want it to cool down. We want it to cool down before we put it on our puff pastry base, as it's just going to be too hard to work with. So just let it cool. Okay, we're going to take our 12 by 9 tin. I've got my puff pastry under plastic bags, look, just to stop it from drying out. Right, we want to take our puff pastry sheet. I want to do it like this. That's about got it, look. Rip that off there. Now, all we're doing is tucking it in and leaving an overhang. Now, we've already done one old-fashioned tip with the breadcrumbs. This is a second old-fashioned tip. This is egg white. Okay, brush the bottom of that pastry with egg white. Now that is going to help prevent this having a soggy bottom. Old-fashioned, but worth knowing. And you guessed it, all we do is put our mince and onion in there. There you go. Now your oven wants to be on at 200 degrees. Okay, just work that in there gently, and then we'll level it out. We don't have to squash it. It's going to find its own way whilst it's cooking. And I can honestly tell you, I've made an awful lot of these sheet pans. Oh, Okay, this one's under plastic too, but this is starting to dry out. Over the top of there. Like that. Now we want to be crimping this together. Now you can fold it all over and get a nice edge on there and crimp it down, or you can just squash it with a fork. Let's take that bottom and just turn it over like that. Let's put a little edge around here, eh? Now I prefer mine like that, but you can do that as well. Right, we want to take some milk and water and we want to brush that. Now you wouldn't use eggs for this, there's just too much, you know. If you were making big sheet pans, you wouldn't waste the egg. A little bit of milk and water. Don't forget, puff pastry is completely full of butter and things. Give this milk a wipe, come on. What are you doing? Right, think about it, where you're going to cut, whatever, and a little couple of vent holes in there. Whack that in the oven 30-35 minutes. Come on. Okay, that smells and looks sensational. Let's get that out of there. So there you go, that is our old school mince and onion sheet pie. Look at that. Come on, cut yourself a slice of pie. In there. Straight down there, look. We'll take this corner out. Oh, crunchy, crunchy pastry. Now that is what I call a slice of pie. Look at that. On there. Oh, look at that. So there you go. That is old school mince and onion sheet pie. How many of you remember that then? Oh, take me back. Nice pastry. Come on. We're in. Get straight in there, straight into, oh, it's a bit warm. Come on. Oh, that is unbelievable. You know, that takes me so far back. And you know, this puff pastry top on this mince and onion, it reminds me of that really famous brand that comes in a tin. Oh. Absolutely. That is fantastic. What a mince pie. Now normally it would be served with chips and beans or chips and gravy, chips and mushy peas. Well, it depends which school you went to. You know, I've got fries here. I wasn't going to put chips on just to show off the pie. The pie is what we're talking about on this video. There you go. It's sensational. Very easy. It's old school. If you remember it, leave a comment. If you've never had it before, share with your friends. Tell them how easy it is to make the old school mince and onion sheet pie. So easy. And if you like what we're doing, a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. We'll catch you in the next video. Come on, in here. Oh, and look, you can see how crispy crunchy it was before it's covered in gravy. Oh yeah. Ooh, look at the steam coming off there. That is fabulous.